The more we learn, the more we discover that we're just scratching the surface. And I think that's what invigorates me the most about this show. In so many ways, we haven't even discovered topics that need to be talked about. We're here to help the pet community really do the best for their dogs and for themselves. And the best part, too, is that while we're doing this, we're learning ourselves.
Welcome to MythBarkers, where we make pet parenting easier by sniffing out the facts and debunking dog tales. Well, Yena, we've completed 10 episodes so far. We've had incredible guests. We've talked about topics in health and wellness, training and behaviors, adoption and rescue, so much stuff. We've learned so much, and we're only just getting started. I think it's really important that we kind of take a minute to reflect and think back what this experience has been like as we, continue forward. How has it been for you?
You hit the nail on the head. The more we learn, the more we discover that we're just scratching the surface. And I think that's what invigorates me the most about this show. In so many ways, we haven't even discovered topics that need to be talked about. We are finding new crevices of things to discover, new crevices of things to get really excited about, because we're here to help the pet community really do the best for their dogs and for themselves. And the best part, too, is that while we're doing this, we're learning ourselves. And the way that I interact with Luke, the way that I train him, the way I feed him has already changed in a couple of months. So I can only imagine how much value this is going to bring to people that are listening and are applying all of these facts, all of these debunked pieces of knowledge to their own lives.
Yeah, that I think has been the really validating experience, because I know we've been working on this. We planned this for so long. We launched in March. We were learning as dog parents, and we knew that if we were learning, other people are going to learn too. But to see people commenting or sharing or even writing to us directly to say, oh, I've learned so much. I didn't realize this was the case. I'm changing this. We're having an impact. And I know it's starting small, but it feels like it's like this small groundswell that's going to just keep growing. And I feel like we're also just scratching the surface, because every guest we talk to, we learn about more things and realize, oh, we have to dig further into that or this other topic.
Yeah, we've said this several times to guests. We're like, we need to have you back.
Yes.
We have additional questions. We have so many additional questions.
Seriously, yeah.
And I don't know if you remember when we were building and planning this, you had said to me, if anything else, I'm learning so much. You said that to me several times, and I love that you said that, because I feel the same way. I couldn't have gotten this knowledge from a Google search. I couldn't have gotten it through even ChatGPT, because I wouldn't know what the questions are to ask. But the more we talk to these experts, they reveal that there are additional questions that we need to ask in order to really refine the way we think about dogs, the way we think about taking care of them. And it's such a revolutionary thing. I've been a dog parent for over 10 years, and there is a sense of complacency sometimes where you think, oh, I've done it this number of years, so I must be doing something right. And I'm sure I had been doing something right, but again, there were areas that really direly needed refreshing. So I'm glad that we can bring that to people, and I'm glad that we could bring that to ourselves, because now we are looking at all of the things that we learned across the 10 episodes, and just absolutely information packed. Is this a university? Is this a pet university? It feels like it.
It's a crash course in pet parenting for sure. And it just makes me think, oh gosh, we have so much more that we could do. And it's really interesting, because now I see all these marketing and advertisements for different pet products and things. And it's really making me think differently after having spoken to some of our experts. Is this really true? Really understanding what's best for our pets. And that's not always how things are presented. So it's making me rethink things. And I think a lot of people are too.
Yes. And the most important thing, too, is, we are acknowledging the fact that we have erred in our ways, and we are learning and continuing to make changes. So for any of the listeners out there, never feel guilty, because we too have done the wrong thing, and we too are in the process of admitting, correcting, and improving. So please come with us on this journey. It's going to be completely guilt-free, no judgment zone. So we just want to make sure that you know that.
And speaking of the personal journey, also just this production in and of itself, I don't know if people necessarily realize it's just you and I doing this with our cameras and equipment. And, we're learning as we're going, and it's not always seamless. It's not always perfect. I sometimes just feel like, oh my gosh, I'm not making sense or I'm blabbing on too much, but we really care and we're trying our best and we appreciate people bearing with us as we're figuring this out. I mean, seriously, in every episode, my mic has moved a different way and it's so funny. I need to make like a montage clip of how ridiculous it is because I'm trying to figure out the best audio sound as well as
It's so good.
it's a trial and error. It's so funny. This has been such a special experience starting this, and I think we're just starting to see our hard work pay off. And I know if we just like keep going, it's only gonna get better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're really doing our best. We're trying our best, and the mic situation cracked me up. And I just thought in my mind, like, what if it was one of those like Gen Z montages where there's just clips of us like messing up everything? It would be a very entertaining and lengthy clip, but I think it would be fun.
Even the dog interruptions. I need to show what that's like because behind the scenes, we're shooting this, trying so hard to be focused, and I have 5, 6 dogs coming at me under the desk. Who's barking? The Amazon guy's coming. It's like, but this is real life. This is working from home. This is like honest to God, so authentic. And
So
it's been
relatable.
so much fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, right on cue. Yeah.
Wait, did you train them? to do
Seriously,
this?
they just start.
They know when you're talking about them.
They
They're
do.
like, my ears. My
They
ears.
do.
That's adorable. So we've talked about the basics of pet health, nutrition and supplements, understanding dog body language, puppy socialization, reactivity in dogs, the grim reality for too many homeless dogs, both here and abroad, how 2 incredible rescues work, and the importance of fostering to help rescue dogs. We've had a wide range of incredible guests, and I want to take this moment to really thank them because all of them have made time in their busy schedules and to take their decades-long learned knowledge to share to us for free. And so I have so much respect and gratitude in my heart for them for making this time and really helping us to bring this information forward so we can fight misinformation and so that we can improve the lives of pet parents. Every guest has been so incredible and has shown the range of their willingness to give and to love and to expand themselves for the benefit of animals. So that was such a beautiful, beautiful thing to see in real life.
Their love of dogs is so pure. Even we had some cat people on the show.
Yep.
It felt like we were all coming together for a shared cause, which was really special. I think also we hope that as we kind of wrap this first season 1, this batch of 12 episodes, we hope the people that are just joining us on this journey now will look back because the content that we've shared in each of these episodes is so relevant, so important to pet parenting today. So our hope is that if you're just joining us, you go back and find some episodes that look interesting to you and just start there. I mean, there's stuff from health and wellness, there's training and behaviors, there's adoption and rescue, there's pet grooming, there's pet loss grief, which that was such a special episode as well. What a gift to
agree.
speak with Beth Bigler about pet loss, because it's something that regardless of if you got your dog from a breeder or a rescue, if you have experienced pet loss or you know someone who has, it's such a universally relatable topic. So yeah, that's been really special.
And it's such an underserved category. She talked about how pet loss grief is disenfranchised, just like other types of grief that society is not ready to accept yet. And we really want to provide that support because we've both been through the thick of it and we realize how difficult it is. And to be able to share these resources is such a gift.
And this is the thing with MythBarkers. We want to talk about the hard subjects.
Yeah.
We want to tackle myths head on to really get to the bottom of information. There's so much about pet parenting in my experience in the past few years since I've just gone completely into the rescue world that we don't talk about enough. Pet loss grief is one of those. There's so many other things. We've said this a bunch of times on the show. In this Instagram social media era, everything seems perfect. That is not the case with pet parenting. Pet parenting is trial and error, and we're all doing our best, and we are here for those pet parents and trying to help make their lives easier.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest universal learnings from the pet behavior training section is observation and patience. And we see so much, as you said, instant gratification online. We might think, oh my God, my dog doesn't love me. Like, why isn't it coming over and like licking my face immediately? And so, sort of helping pet parents understand the dog body language as well, sets the right kinds of expectations. And, the knowledge that every dog has a different personality. And it doesn't mean that if it doesn't happen quickly, you're failing in some way or something's going wrong. It just means that your dog might need a little bit more time to adjust or unravel or feel comfortable based on their previous experience, not necessarily the current one. So that is very strength giving in a lot of ways, because we feel very guilty sometimes that maybe we're not doing everything perfectly. Maybe, I didn't read the cues. Like, as long as you're interested, curious, and take the time to really, really look at your dog, observe the behavior, over time, it'll be like an organic relationship forming. There are messy parts, of course, but the messy parts really create the bonding experience, and it's what makes that whole relationship meaningful.
Nothing is perfect, nothing is black and white. As someone who likes to try to control things or organize things, that's not the case here. We're all just doing our best, and I think we shouldn't let perfect be the enemy of the good or the great, That's a statement that definitely works for pet parenting. So, Yena, do you want to think back and just reflect on some of the episodes? And for anyone who's just joining us for the first time, maybe we can pique some interest of the things that we've talked about.
Absolutely. I remember the first episode viscerally because it was Dr. Sarah Witherell, who is Luke's current veterinarian. She was also Bodhi's vet, an incredible, incredible vet who not only cares about the health of dogs, but also making sure that every dog feels safe and comfortable when they get to the veterinarian's office. So she's actually had additional training in order to help dogs feel this way and to strategize how to get reactive dogs into the clinic without them feeling awful, fearful, any of those negative feelings. And I can attest to the skill and expertise of Animal Kind because I take Luke there. They take such good care of him, even though he's a little spicy one. We figured out a way to get him there in a very pleasant way, so I'm very happy to talk about all of the learnings from here. Our main question was, a wet nose is not a definitive sign of health, and it turns out that sometimes wet noses can be a good sign of health, but at the same time there are other ailments where a wet nose is a side effect. So really it comes from a bigger context of what your dog is going through, and this is why it's really important to have regular visits to the vet, because they will be able to take your dog's weight. They'll be able to look at your dog closely and see if there's any bumps, any sort of irregularities that an expert needs to check in order to see if there's anything serious happening. And if there's something that needs to be looked at or fixed, then it can be done right away instead of waiting for it to grow and get serious and then dealing with a much worse circumstance. I love also that she talked about how, we talk about what we feed our dogs a lot, and that's important, but what's also really important is maintaining a healthy weight for your dog breed. So that is going to help them be more mobile in the future. It's going to prevent diseases, but this is an area I'd not thought about as much and now realize is very important.
I think she said even proper weight management can help extend a dog's life by up to 2 years, which is just like...
2 years is a long time.
Who doesn't want more time with their dog?
Absolutely. And it's really like, even if you're feeding them the right food, if you feed them too much, that can become a problem. That can be weight on their joints. It can be weight on their digestive system. So really important to find out what the optimal amount to feed your dog is and make sure you don't exceed that. Of course, you should give them exercise so that they can balance that muscle and, intake of nutrients as well. She also stressed dental health for dogs, which I believe also, I feel like it was stressed at least 3 times across the 10 episodes. Dental health for dogs is incredibly important. And in a way, just getting them used to having their teeth cleaned when they're young is going to help them a lot so that they are used to it and you can keep it up as they even get older. She talked about some of the most common ailments and how small dogs and big dogs have different health issues.
We talked about the importance of also mental health, which I think is
Yes.
often overlooked. The
Yes.
importance of not just keeping your dog physically healthy, but mental health. And how do you do that? Through stimulation, enrichment, novel stimulus, that kind of stuff. And that was, I think, a really important point she hit too. And the importance of taking your dogs outside and taking them on walks is like one of the best ways to give them the mental stimulation, right?
Yeah.
Dogs are so guided by smell.
Yeah.
There's so many easy ways that we can do that and just take the effort to do that. I think is going to make such a difference, especially because she mentioned that as dogs get older, their mental health declines so much quicker. So it's really something important that we need to focus on.
You know, I'm personally so grateful that she said that to me when I was going in for Bodhi checkups, because she said what's going to help him cognitively is to take him to different places and even help arrange meetups with old friends, new friends. So I really took this proactive approach to take him to different places, and it was just such a beautiful time of rich memories. And I know that Bodhi really thoroughly enjoyed it too. So if she hadn't taught me that, I don't know that he would have had so many like rich experiences before passing. So on a personal level, I'm so grateful to her for that.
And, you know, that's something that Dr. Angie talked about too, was the dog's quality of life, right? We talked to Dr. Angie Krause all about supplements,
Yeah.
but at a higher level, she was talking about making sure your dogs are living their best life possible. Not everything needs to be perfect. If they have one or two symptoms, that's minor, like we don't need to overreact. Also, taking it a step further and going, okay, I know what has helped the dog, but what is realistic? What is this pet parent going to do? What's achievable? What's going to have the
Yeah.
biggest impact? I thought that was so important because I think so often pet professionals tell you what you should do, and it's not always something that then the pet parent implements. So I thought that conversation was really eye-opening.
Absolutely agree. For me personally, the world of supplements was so confusing because there were so many out there. And like, I felt like even more so than for humans. Like, I don't get advertised human vitamins ever, but my feed is completely filled with joint supplements,
Yep.
digestive probiotics, like all of it. And I don't really know how often to give it to them, if it's going to make a difference, how long it's going to take for us to see a difference. So she really gave us a lot of enlightenment in that area. She talked about how there is such a thing as giving your pet too many supplements, and she recommended her top 3 or 4. We had asked her about longer term supplements like glucosamine, and she said that a lot of these, as well as probiotics, can take months to show any effect. So if you're a pet parent that can carry this on for years and years and years, it could be a route that you take. But if this is something that is only visible for like a month, then it might not be worth doing. It might be more worth focusing on incorporating things to their diet so that that can be supplemented in some way with food.
And what I especially loved is she outlined the signs that we can learn and watch for if a diet is not working for a dog. Are they getting repeat ear infections? Are they scooting their butts on the ground? Are they scratching and licking? Are they getting hot spots? There's so many things that we should just be aware of and realize, oh, this could be tied to diet. I mean, I can specifically attest to the constant licking and scratching from food allergies. I've had a lot of pitties come through my house, and these terriers are very prone to allergies related to food. So having to go through the process of eliminating chicken or beef or other things,
Yeah.
you know, it makes a difference. But the first step is, as a pet parent, observing your dog and seeing how they're reacting or behaving and going, okay, I need to bring them to the vet and get them some help.
Looking at their poops, looking at them eating, like seeing the quality of the poops. And she also said no supplement is going to make up for a bad diet. This is so important because I think even as people, we sometimes tend to think, oh, if I have a meh meal, but I have my vitamins, I'll be okay. It's not the case. It's not the case for dogs either. So she said that very explicitly, and I was like, gotcha.
And, you know, these were just 2 episodes specifically on health and wellness from a veterinarian's perspective. I think there's so much more that we want to talk about. We would love to dig more into pet nutrition and pet food. So that's definitely something on our roadmap for sure. I think another big area that we spent a lot of time talking about was training and behaviors. We had some incredible animal trainers, theatrical trainers, dog trainers, and behaviorists learn so much. Maybe I'll start with Jamie because I've worked with her personally for a long time. And, we wanted to start as broad as possible. Again, this was kind of our approach to starting MythBarkers is we want to address topics that all pet parents can learn from, regardless of the type of dog they have. So the idea of understanding your dog's body language and that myth that dogs can't talk, they can't speak, wagging tail's a happy tail, like, no, that's not true. And we really need to learn how to read our dog's body language, the cues that they're, giving us, because they don't use words, but they tell us a lot from their body language and their cues. So Jamie talked all about how to understand what are inviting or distance decreasing cues, things when dogs want to engage with you, like the play bows, like stretching, like the soft wiggly body language, the open mouth, all of these kind of things that are telling you, oh, this dog is happy, they want to get closer to you. And conversely, when dogs want more distance from you, what are they doing? Or if they're stressed, lip licking, yawning when you're not tired is actually a stress signal. Pacing, whining, excess shedding out of nowhere, drool, the ears pinned back, the tail tucked. That was something that Bill talked about too.
That's right.
These are all very clear signs that something is not okay and the dog needs space. And I think we need to learn as pet parents to respect these signals. And I think the first step of it is understanding and being aware.
Yeah, observation, patience, and awareness. So important in training and getting the desired behavior. So Jamie had shared with us that a slow and steady approach is really the key to successful dog training. And this is especially important when you're bringing a new dog to your home.
Also, trying to understand your dog's specific needs and serving those needs. Too often, I think we as the humans, as the pet parents or the pet owners, and I don't like that term owners, but we want our dogs to adapt to us, to our lifestyle. And I think it's so important that we learn what do our dogs need and how can we serve that.
It's this notion that if it's a bigger dog, they need more exercise, but that's also untrue. There's so many smaller or medium-sized dogs based on what they did for work and genetic breeding. They need a lot of exercise. So this was another interesting lesson that we learned, both from studying dogs and also perspective of rescues. They were like, you don't have to have a massive house to have a big dog. If you can give them the exercise and the enrichment they need, they're happy to be in an apartment with you. So really good things to know and opens up a lot of different possibilities. But yes, here listening to what your specific dog and perhaps even the breed may need based on, generations of conditioning, and then making sure they have that exercise and enrichment is a very big part of it, because you could do the same thing with two different breeds of dogs, and for one breed it might be totally great, for another they might need more, or they might need different things.
I have some shepherd mixes in the house. They need the mental stimulation. So giving them the puzzle toys, giving them like scent work, different things to do that stimulates them. Whereas other dogs are happy to be couch potatoes and they don't need that. It's just interesting how every dog is their individual and they have different needs. And it's so fascinating when we talk to different types of pet professionals and specialists, veterinarian, a trainer, a rescuer. They're telling us the same things.
The patterns are the most fascinating things. Yeah. And that's when you know it's real. You interview 10 experts, and when they all repeat a single thread, for me, that really has been like observation of your dog.
Patience.
That has been like patience and observation and curiosity. I think if those three things are met, those things will be able to be either flagged and then ramified, or it would just be solved. I think they're so important, those three aspects. Another thing that we tackled with Jamie is the topic of dog parks. Do you have a dog park story, or should I tell mine?
I have not had great experience with dog parks, and as a pity mom, I can tell you I don't go to them anymore because my dog's going to be the ones that are blamed for fights that aren't necessarily things that they start. So,
yes.
Yeah.
I've also heard about dog parks from veterinarians as well as behaviorists, and they both think that it's not a great idea. From a veterinarian's point of view, you don't know which dogs are vaccinated, what dogs have what disease, and they're all in the same place, sniffing and licking the same thing. So it could be a potential place for spreading diseases from the pet behaviors point of view, it's that for most dogs, this is incredibly overwhelming, very disorienting, and can erode the trust between the parent and the dog because the parent's job is to protect them from, whatever they're scared of, whatever they're fearful of right now. And the fact that they're just there allowing multiple dogs to run at them to their face, exhibit any kind of behavior, I think that's a boundary initially that the pet parent should set for their dogs. And we even talked about what is the right way to introduce them very slowly to surroundings. I took Luke once, I think, and he was very confused. He kept running back at me. He didn't know what to do there. And I realized that he wasn't really enjoying himself because after a while he was just standing next to me. So I was like, where are we going to go? This is not working out.
And I do understand not everyone has the luxury of having access to fenced-in parks or a fenced-in backyard.
Yeah.
So I don't want to completely shit on dog parks, but I think it's something that we just need to be very intentional about because I do know some foster parents that I work with who have access to a dog park who go at the crack of dawn before any other dogs are there. And it's a nice way to let their dogs run in a safe, controlled environment without other dogs meeting them. And if it gets too busy, they're going to leave when other dogs show up.
Good strategy.
The intentionality of, this is also a key theme, right? Whether you are just socializing your dog, you have a brand new puppy, or you have a reactive dog, being intentional about what we do, the environments that and the situation that we put our dogs in, we really need to be cognizant. Just don't drop your dog in the deep end, expect them to be fine. Like, we need to be intentional, and it's our job to take care of them and set them up for success.
Yes.
I think
Absolutely
the
agree.
other thing that was really interesting was talking about how dogs learn from reinforcement and consequence. And so the idea of teaching your dogs the good behaviors that you want them to do, not waiting for bad behaviors to arise and then correcting them, that was like a big, oh yeah, I should do that too. And training doesn't need to be overwhelming, doesn't need to be this big mammoth effort, just little training efforts every day. And if you're consistent, I think you'll see the results.
If you're consistent, you can even teach an old dog new tricks. There is no time frame on when they stop learning, but there is that caveat of behaviors that are repeated over and over for a long span of time. It might be harder to change those behaviors, but depending on your dog's motivation and consistency, it's definitely possible.
So thinking back to then the episode with Rachel Laurie Harris, we put this episode under the guise of reactive dogs are aggressive dogs, but we weren't just talking about reactive dogs, at all. The lessons that she was talking about apply to all dogs, which I think is just so helpful. The positive reinforcement, how important that is, and also taking the time to build the trust with your dogs, again, with the gradual exposure, if they're a puppy or an adult dog, is just so important.
Yes. And Rachel really debunked the theory of dominance training. This was a research that was done back in the day. It was an outdated theory that was already debunked years after that. But for some reason, this concept really took off. And, I think maybe mainstream media embraced it quite a bit too. There were a lot of shows around dominance training and being the alpha dog in a pack of dogs, which doesn't make sense because they recognize that we are not of their species, and they certainly don't look at us as alphas. And if we are talking about alphas, even in a wolf pack, they are the ones that give the other dogs the chance to eat first. They are the protectors of the pack. They are not bullies. They're not trying to oppress each other. So I think this really outdated concept being debunked is such a great thing. I was so happy to hear it. And another thing I really love and apply on daily walks now is she talked about how important it is for your dogs to really have a comfortable walk, which means that it's not constantly interrupted. The leash is not constantly being pulled. They're able to go out and enjoy their surroundings. And she said this one thing: when your dog stops to sniff something, you take a deep breath. Stop, take a deep breath, let your dog do whatever your dog wants to do. And then when they're done, you just move along. And I love this concept because we are so used to go, go, go that we ourselves don't really allow ourselves to stop in nature. And this is a good practice for both people and dogs. Taking a deep breath next to a tree when my when my Luke is sniffing it. Like, it is the best feeling. And we have really enjoyed our walks a lot more because I'm more cognizant of how long he needs to take somewhere. Like, I want him to sniff it all. Like, this is your time. So that was a great addition to the quality of our life.
That's the mental stimulation Dr. Sarah was talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
So important. And the last trainer that we had, Bill Berloni, is an incredible theatrical animal trainer who has trained not only dogs, but pretty much any kind of animal that you can think of in the theater. And just wow, the fact that he is such a pioneer and has spent his life doing something that was not done before, bringing live animals into the theater, training them for these entertainment professional working roles. And you'd think that sounds so foreign. What does that have to apply to me? But the way he approaches training the dogs he works with is exactly how we as pet parents also should be approaching training our dogs.
Yeah. He is really incredible in the sense that he champions rescue dogs. You know, the first dog that acted for Annie in live theater was a rescue dog. And since he has rescued more than 300 dogs for his theatrical work. I love that he takes this initiative and he has been such a voice in highlighting what needs to be improved in this space. He talked about the lack of protection there is for these animals on set and the fact that, you know, if there is any, you know, third-party observer, they're basically being paid by the production team. So there is no motivation for them to report any wrongdoings. So it's just like a thing to have, but they're not really out there to protect the animals on set. He is very vocal and very free about how he talks about this. So I really respected that deeply.
Yeah. And I love that he also shared how we can recognize when dogs are stressed. We should know this because that, again, the first step is understanding, to be aware, and then we could do something different. So he shared like the 3 clear signs when an animal is stressed. Like, oh, that makes sense. I can totally apply that to everyday life when I'm looking to see if you know, how a dog is doing. I also loved how he talked about outside of his theatrical world where he's helping these working animals be in entertainment, the work he does with the Humane Society of New York, how he helps to make these perfect matches, and how he just is like, we need to be realistic about what does that dog need, what does the family need, and find the right fit.
Yeah.
And when it's the right match, you know, it's successful, and then you don't have any issues. They don't really necessarily need help following up. I just thought that was so insightful, like reinforcing how important it is to know what a dog needs. Again, recognizing what does the dog need, and then placing them with a family that can meet those needs.
He gives a lifetime consultation when they get adopted. Like, that is giving, man. I was shocked. I was like, okay, so for all of the dogs you adopt out, there's a lifetime support. And he was like, yes. And he said it so casually and so clearly. And I was like, man, like, I know Bill loves animals. That is no mystery.
And the fact that he doesn't have all this, any kind of formal training, but he's just learned through experience and figured out what works, and really understanding what is going to motivate this dog to do something and how can I train and reward these specific behaviors. And I loved his notion about how treats have value, because that is such a thing in the training world, low value versus high value treats, which I think a lot of people don't realize. They just give their dogs treats and it's like, well, you should use them intentionally for what you want them to do. It was just really fascinating that, oh, wow, he has been able to successfully train all of these animals to do this incredible work just from personal experience and just intuition.
And he also trains the actors that are on set to interact positively with the animals that are on set. So he talked about how the dogs end up becoming a family member to the set. So instead of having 1 or 2 people love on them, they've got an entire crew of people, like just loving on them, just appreciating everything they're doing. So they enjoy what they do. They get lovely treats when they do it. They get positive reinforcement from everyone they love on the set when they do it. So it's creating a nice environment for the dog to feel comfortable in acting as well.
You know, it wasn't too surprising to know that he also has to train the actors, because both Jamie and Rachel said, you're training the humans, the parents, sometimes more than you're training the actual dog, which is like, yeah, it's so true. We need to learn how to show up, how to give that guidance and leadership, and get them to, you know, behave how we want in return.
A lot of these lessons apply to people too.
Seriously. Yeah.
So if you ever need a reminder to observe and to have patience, dogs will teach you that.
Yeah. Speaking of that, like, can we talk about the saints that Audrey and Gina are for the work that they're doing in the rescue space? Audrey in rural Georgia helping to save dogs like on the ground, and then Gina bringing thousands of dogs from Korea over to be adopted out in the States is, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
so amazing.
They're two very different rescues, and they are absolutely so inspiring. I mean, starting with Audrey, she started just rescuing dogs in rural Georgia because there was no animal control. There was no number to call when there were a pack of litter like freezing in the cold or in terrible conditions. So she just started doing this herself, and she realized how little care and resource there were for the dogs in that area. And so there was efforts to mobilize the local police department, to educate, to fundraise, to help these animals. But just seeing her videos day to day at all hours of the day or night to go and rescue these dogs, I was just deeply inspired that she was willing to just do it. So many of us are like, oh, we should help. And to see her actually doing it was so beautiful, so inspiring. And she's also created such a wonderful community of like minded, compassionate people that want to be a part of this effort. Having her as a guest was super inspirational, and I just think she's like a badass person. Like, just such a boss. I love it.
I think also it was so eye-opening to hear what the situation is like in the South and certain areas of the country that don't have all the necessarily laws and infrastructure that maybe we have in the Northeast. Not having leash laws. I never really thought about it, how important leash laws are, but if it's keeping dogs safe from roaming freely, reproducing with other females in heat, or getting hit by cars or shot, like, just to think about that, like, we as a society need to do something to change that, to protect these animals. And I think one of the most important things that we talked about with Audrey is the importance of spay and neuter. And it's something that is so important to us personally and with MythBarkers. And our hope is that as we grow, we will be able to support spay and neuter initiatives, because Audrey reinforced this is the only way that we're going to get a handle on the overpopulation issue. And it's so much easier to spay and neuter dogs than it is to have these unwanted, unplanned litters show up, be possibly put in dangerous situations, need rehabilitation, and then the time and effort it takes to vet them properly and then find them homes. And it's a vicious cycle that never stops. So until we start investing in these spay and neuter initiatives, I don't believe that we're going to get out of this crisis situation that we have with the overpopulation of homeless dogs.
Yeah, the way we can stop the cycle is to really, really deal with the population first. And our goal really is to make sure that all animals live a good quality of life, that they have a home, that they're comfortable, that they have food. They don't have to be out stranded in dangerous situations. So what she's doing is extremely powerful. And I love that she mentioned you can support rescues in so many different ways. We might only think, oh, you have to go out there and literally be in the fields. You can do that. That would be absolutely amazing. You can also be a foster. There are donations that you can give so that they can pay for spay and neuter. We can help amplify and advocate for them. We can help spread awareness about what she's doing. So there's many different ways that we can get involved in this, but I feel like the interest and curiosity and willingness to help is a great first step.
And so then we had Gina on, which again is a completely different rescue, right? Audrey is saving dogs from the South, and she's either adopting them out locally, or she's working with rescue partners in other parts of the states to transport them up so that they can find their forever homes, which is something that's very close to my heart, because I do this pretty much full time on the side of MythBarkers is helping rescue dogs find homes. Gina, on the other hand, is now, from her own personal experience, and I know how much having her on the show meant to you, but her personal experience of having family in Korea, seeing what the situation is like for these homeless dogs in Korea, and figuring out, okay, I'm going to do something to change that.
Amazing. Wow. So Gina started out volunteering at Sean Casey Rescue and learned a lot about how rescue organizations operate, how they work, how they intake animals, and how they adopt them out. And it is a great thing what she has done, because she's actually banded together with other rescue organizations in Korea to change the law around meat trade, which is such a dire change that needed to happen. One of the biggest things that I love about this is I actually visited the Bundang Center in Korea that Korean Canine Rescue put up. And this is a labor of love. This building was not built on donations. It was built from personal investments of people who really cared about dogs. The amount of volunteers, the level of care that they give the dogs is absolutely incredible. They eat the best food. They have the best behaviorists. And I was so happy to see that they mobilized the youth in Korea to encourage the government to change legislature to enforce better animal rights within the country. And we talked about how only 15% of the dogs get adopted in Korea, and a lot of the larger dogs, that percentage gets even lower. So I have been a flight volunteer for Korean Canine Rescue a number of times, and it's the most amazing thing because I also see when they come here and they land up in foster homes, how much community that brings, the enrichment it brings to everybody that they touch. We joked that Prospect Park is basically like Korean Canine Park because there are so many dogs for Korean Canine Rescue there. And I also love that they now rescue and adopt out local dogs as well.
Yeah, it's amazing. And Gina has such an extensive knowledge of the rescue space. And I appreciated that she acknowledged, Korean dogs are a special kind of dog. They've been through a lot of trauma. So I'm so impressed, given my personal experience in adopting out dogs through rescues, how thorough they are and how many resources they provide to set their dogs up for success in the adopted homes. But if a Korean dog is not for you, there are other options. And I loved her suggestions on buying from ethical breeders, which is another topic that we absolutely have to get into in a future episode, because breeding and ethical breeding is like a whole other thing. I remember Bill mentioned it to us too, like there's so many unethical breeders and puppy mills out there, and we gotta help change that problem.
Yeah, Gina had mentioned that if you're working with the right breeder, they should have no issues showing you the place where they're residing, showing you the parents, their health situation. If all of this is kept under wraps, that means something is being compromised. And so these are the signs to really look for. Of course, there's like certification for breeders, but I also feel like there needs to be proactive, in real life things to look out for, even within that category.
More transparency. Yep.
More transparency, absolutely. Because if you have nothing to hide, then like you shouldn't have anything to hide, really. And one fascinating thing about Korean Canine Rescue is that they have adopted out more than 3,500 dogs in the last 10 years, and they have a return rate of less than 2%, which I think is the lowest out of any rescue organization I've ever heard of. They take great care during the onboarding process. I really found it so helpful that they gave us guidance on what to feed Luke, how to onboard him so he's comfortable in our house, how to give him space, the 3-3-3 rule, and to have the right expectations and to be okay with having things move slowly. That was really beneficial for him. And if I didn't have their guidance, I know that it could have gone very differently. So I appreciate all of the resources that they give.
I think we all too often get excited and bring a dog home if we're adopting or getting a dog from a breeder and just expect it to just drop it into our family and that's it. And I could get on a soapbox about this. There's so much work that needs to be done, and the patience and how to integrate slowly. And it's something Jamie talked about. It's something that Gina talks about. Multiple people. Patience and slow integration and being intentional how we handle these dogs.
Yeah.
That's how we set them up for success.
So true.
If we're going to talk about rescue, we're also going to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is fostering, which we were so lucky to have the incredible Isabel Klee, who has just taken over its social media lately with her account Simon Sits and the incredible story of Tiki that just has caught everyone's hearts.
I love Tiki. And it's because it's a live example of a shut down dog being rehabilitated in a nice environment, safe environment. And you can see how their brain is shifting and their perception of the world is slowly changing through these positive, safe interactions. that is such a beautiful thing because you're literally changing the life trajectory of this dog. This dog could have been shut down for the rest of its life if no one had gone and given the care that Tiki needed. And to see the potential in rehabilitation and the quick resilience, given the general time frame of Tiki to open up and show his personality, like she said, love dogs loudly. Just love on them loudly. That's her social strategy, and man, does it work.
What she has done to advocate for the foster space is incredible, and I know she's helped so many dogs that have come through her home. And we really wanted to address some of the myths around fostering, because I think actually there was a study that went out last year specifically addressed the misperceptions around fostering and the hurdles that people think that's keeping them from fostering. The idea that you're actually expected to adopt the dog, that you're expected to pay for this dog, all these things that are not actually true. And
Yeah.
Isabel was kind of like able to just like tackle them head on and say, no, as a foster, we don't want you to adopt the dog. We want you to be that safe bridge for them to find their forever home. And the eye-opening stat that if a dog is in foster versus in a shelter, they're 14 times more likely to be adopted. That is crazy, but it also makes so much sense because shelters are such a stressful environment for dogs. And God bless everyone who works in a shelter because they are doing their best to take care of the dogs.
Yeah.
But putting a dog in a home environment is just so different. And once you get through the decompression period, the 3-3-3 rule, giving them those 3 days and the 3 weeks, you see their real personality emerge. And it's such a beautiful experience as a foster. I can tell you all about that. But to then understand who they are, to then find a better match, like that's where like the real magic is and the importance of matchmaking. So I love that she shared that.
Yes, she shared that, every rescue has different policies on fostering. You don't have to foster for months at a time. You can sign up for a temp foster. A lot of them will supply the food and cover the medical costs. Really, if you can give the dogs enrichment, if you can give them love and care, then that is going to be better than the situation they're in a shelter. It's gonna be much better for them. So any capacity in which to foster, there are so many different ways to do it. And Laura, you are a foster mom through and through. And I'm sure that while talking to Isabel, there were like some similarities. You guys touched on some of the experiences you have with foster matchmaking. What have you felt about what she's doing that is like similar to what you're doing? And can you speak to the process of being a foster parent, maybe the good and the bad?
I just love how a lot like what Audrey's doing, rescuing on the ground. I love how she is showing the step-by-step experience every day so that when you start following like Tiki, or Poutine was one of my favorites.
Poutine was so
because I like bullies and I love the blockheads.
Yeah.
But like watching Tiki come into her house scared and frightful, and how he doesn't want to maybe leave his crate or doesn't want to eat. He's afraid to interact with her other dog. And then you actually can see as a viewer, with no effort on your end except for following it on social, you see the gradual improvements day by day by day. And it's not linear, but then you go, oh wow, it's been 3 weeks. Look at him. And then he jumps up on the couch for the first time and you're like invested in this journey and cheering along. And I'm like, this is what I wish more fosters would do, because it makes the experience so emotional and you realize how important fosters really are.
Yeah.
And I think if we can get people emotionally invested in helping, but also combat the myths about we actually don't want you to adopt the dog. A foster fail is actually not really a good thing, because we want fosters to be able to help one dog after the next. And yes, it is hard. Okay, I tell this to the fosters I work with all the time because I do this too. I get so attached to my dogs that I foster. I love each of them. Some more than others, some are easier than others, but each dog is its own individual and they all deserve a chance. And if you can be a part of that, I think it's so rewarding. It's given me such a purpose. I started working in a shelter and then I started like just volunteering as a dog walker. Fostering has changed my life completely and I can't say enough good things about it. And I just wish more people would consider it and put aside what their excuses are or they're afraid to get attached, because you're doing such a wonderful thing to save a life. So
I love that you say it's non-linear because that's exactly what she shows. Like some days are really good, you see progress, but some days it's like, oh, it's been a hard day. It's been challenging. Maybe there are even health issues that you have to deal with. But then seeing the progress over time, that's really what's beautiful about it, even though it's non-linear.
Can I share like a quick story about one of the fosters I'm working with? This dog came from Tennessee, very special dog. He was shot in the face, black lab puppy, maybe a year old. When he got connected to our rescue, he literally had an open wound from being shot in the face. He is saved. He comes up. I met him the day he came off of transport. He was a happy boy. You're like, oh my God. He was a little afraid in the shelter. Like, we need to get him straight into a foster home. He went home with an amazing foster that we have. He is this big love. She has now gotten him through surgery to close and fix his wound. His face has healed. It's miraculous. You wouldn't even know.
Oh, thank goodness.
He loves everyone he meets. His spirit is so vibrant, and it's just like another example of like dogs' resiliency. Honestly amazes me every single day to see what dogs go through and their capacity still to love and trust other human beings and to bring joy into the world. I could tell you 100 stories like this. This is like why I love the rescue space.
Oh, I love this story. It's like bringing tears to my eyes because, like, the capacity that they have, it's almost like, you know, when small things happen to us, we hold a grudge. And then for dogs, like their capacity to forgive and let go and still give people a chance. That is so beautiful.
And he's a happy boy, and now he's available for adoption. And he's just one of hundreds that are like that. And
Yeah.
Dogs teach us so much, and that was another thing that a lot of our guests have shared, you know, that we should be so lucky to learn from our dogs because they teach us these life lessons.
Yeah, we always ask our guests who was that animal that changed their lives. And I love hearing this story because it's just a beautiful story to allow like animals to impact you in that way because they have the most pure intentions and the purest hearts. So it comes from a great place.
The last person we have to talk about, which is our most recent episode. Oh my God, we were so lucky to get Jess Rona.
I know. So, wow. Jess Rona is a powerhouse. She has amazing content online showing these dogs glammed up and looking so special. She also is a comedian. She's had involvement in many TV shows. She's such a bright personality. The first time I met her, I was like, you've got that aura. You've got that amazing, amazing aura. And we covered a lot of different topics around grooming and care for our dogs. And the number one lesson that I learned is that I should not be using Furminator on Luke. And I really needed that important lesson because I was going to keep using it if not for this episode, okay?
Well, the one thing I learned, which was like the myth that we talked about, was actually every dog should be groomed regardless of their coat type and why it's so important. And I think the idea that groomers are not just there to make your dog look beautiful. It's not just a shampoo and a blow dry. It's really important to their health. And they're really getting in there from nose to tail. They're checking everything out. And the idea that they're looking for things that are wrong and they can spot the abnormalities and then could tell the pet parent, bring your dog to the vet. Like, oh, like how often are you really sifting through your dog's hair at the skin level?
Yeah. I think she's going to revolutionize the way that we think about dog grooming too, because there's a big emphasis on hydration. We think about our skin as skin. We don't think about dog skin as skin because it's got all this fur over it. But knowing that they also need hydration on the skin level, and that if it's not there, it leads to flakiness, it can lead to itchiness and possibly infections. This is going to change the way we think about grooming our dogs. Yes, we need to wash them, but they also need to be moisturized. I didn't know this, but now I know. We are very excited for her dog collection to come out. It's still on the hush hush, but we know it's going to be amazing. So can't wait
the dog
till it comes
products.
out.
Oh my gosh, we're going to have to try them firsthand and share them with our audience because she knows what's going to help. So to create products, not only in the grooming process, but also tools, her insights on like the differences between the brushes and why you should use what.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. Like, I didn't even think about that. I also never thought about conditioning my dog's hair. Like, we use like a shampoo. Did not know I needed also a conditioner. So I'm rethinking my supplements after this. I'm rethinking my grooming methods. Like we
Yep.
said, we've learned a lot.
Yep.
And so hoping that everyone who's joining us on this journey is also learning a lot too. We don't want it to be overwhelming. We're all doing our best. And I think just little improvements are going to add up. We had a lot of gold nuggets, I think, throughout the last 10 episodes, just
So
across the
many.
board. What do you think was your biggest aha moment or like thing that you learned that is impacting you and Luke?
So the biggest aha moment was not one episode, but the pattern that we recognized throughout that observation, patience, and curiosity are really going to change the game. And I really believe in that. I've tried to incorporate that everywhere I could. And I really deeply feel that it's made Luke open up a little bit more. Every day, he shows me a new part of his personality. Like, it's been rainy here in New York, and so we've been spending a lot of time in bed. And he used to be very quiet, very shy, and he still is very bashful in some ways. Sometimes I look at him and he looks at me very awkwardly, like he doesn't know what to say. And I'm like, that's the cutest thing. But yesterday he whined for affection for the first time. He really wanted me to pay attention, so he kind of went "Oh," like that. And it's not something that I've ever seen before. He's never been like this, but I think as we give each other more space, more respect, more observation, more patience, he is so down to show me parts of him, new parts of him, and open up more. So, as a reactive dog mom, that was truly a moment to enjoy. So, that's my biggest aha takeaway. What was yours?
There's been so many things. I think this trend that we need to be really aware of our dog's needs and how they're different for every dog. It's just something I've really been thinking about a lot. It started with Jamie. A lot of our guests hit it. And I think it's something that I'm trying to now more consciously making sure we're trying to serve those needs with the exercise, with their diet. Supplements is across the board. Like I'm definitely taking Dr. Angie's advice. But there's been so many learnings, and it also just makes me so excited to be moving forward and start shooting a new batch of episodes because there's just so much we could get into. I would
Yeah.
really love to open the floor and ask our audience, people who've been following us along with this journey, what has been the biggest aha moment? What is the biggest learning that you've taken away from these few episodes? What topics do you want us to talk about as we dig into season 2?
And if there are any guests that you know of, any professionals or experts in the pet field that you already follow and would like to see on our show, please tag us, let us know, and we will reach out to them right away.
And if you're incorporating or trying the tips and the tricks that you've learned from MythBarkers, also please tag us, share that content. We would love to see the MythBarkers pro tips in your real life.
Absolutely. We'll be really excited about seeing how it's improving your life in real time. But you know, I speak for both Laura and myself. We're so grateful that you tuned in. This is truly a labor of love, and to be received with love, it means a lot to us.
Yeah, we're doing this for all of us pet parents out here. We want to make pet parenting easier. We want to help enrich the lives of all of our dogs. And we want to build a community that's going to give back. So that piece is coming.
Yeah.
Let's not forget about that piece because we are going to make an impact, we promise. But we really want to help make pet parenting easier. So we appreciate you joining us on this journey. We promise we are just getting started. These first 12 episodes that we've had has just been such a gift and such a light. And I just can't wait to keep moving forward. So thank you, Yena.
Season 2 is a coming.
Yeah, stay tuned.
Excited. We're gonna cover so much, and I think our knowledge is gonna go deeper and vaster simultaneously.
So get ready. And if you haven't caught all the episodes from season 1, now's your chance.